The main object of this meeting is to make sure that people know what the South Warwickshire local plan actually is and how it affects Bidford. I think I said before, some of you will have seen 1,372 pages. There's 3 addendums of 175 pages each to go with that. So it gives us a bit of bedtime reading. What we've done is we've gone through it and we've picked out the bits that directly affect Bidford. What we'll do tonight is we'll present to you how we see it, and then you can make your mind up. There'll be slides at the end that will give you an idea of what you should do, but it might not be what you want to do. But you just have a look at these and see how you feel about it once we've described what is actually happening in the village. Okay, so if you look at the first slide. Oh, yes, sorry, I ought to really say. The people sitting at this table on my far right is Mark Hopcraft, who is the chair of the Neighbourhood Development Plan Committee. He's working with others to produce a neighbourhood development plan, because whether we have a plan or whether we don't, if we don't have an up-to-date neighbourhood development plan, developers, builders will almost build whatever they like. But if Mark and his team get together, it will carry heavy weight when planning decisions are being made. Next to Mark is Rob Williams, who's chair of the parish council. There'll be opportunities for him to speak a little bit later as well. You know, he may well cut into what we're actually saying. Next is Darren Pemberton, who is Bidford East District Councillor. I'm Bill Fleming, I'm Bidford West District Councillor. There's a dividing line. It's called West Home Road, but it blurs for us. We just do whatever we've got to do. So having said all of that, I'll crack on with the rest of this. Like I say, what we're trying to do is to show you in real terms what this means for Bidford. So how did we actually get here? You were going to do that bit, weren't you?
Yeah, just really want to give you a bit of a history lesson, and also so to understand about how this plan really isn't following the process that it really should do. And I think the first thing to say, as far as this meeting is concerned, what we're not going to be getting into is, do we want that particular bit of development in that particular part of the village? Because of the way that the local plan process has been run, that ship at the moment has sailed about, do we object to certain sites or not? Where we're at is the plan as a whole, does it stack up? Is it a plan that should be the plan that we use? And our view, Bill and I, and your parish council's view, and we're not alone in this in Bidford, across in Hatton, in Warwick, as far away as Hatton in Warwick, down in Long Marston, Clifford Chambers, Henley, Kyneton. For lots of different reasons, people feel that this plan doesn't work, it's the wrong plan. And I've got to fess up here. I'm the guy that started this process off back in 2021. My vision was that we knew the existing plan had got problems. We knew that we had to review it. And what we wanted to do at that point, and certainly what was looking like the plan was heading in towards as late as sort of early 2024, I should say, is new settlements, things like building along the railway lines, things like building near to the motorways. Because if you build new settlements, it's much easier to get the infrastructure in place than if you try to build extensions to existing settlements. The plan has moved significantly away from new settlements. There are 2 new settlements in the plan, but the vast majority of the development now is bolting onto existing settlements. so it does not learn the lessons of the previous or technically current plan that we have. So in terms of a bit of a history lesson as to how we've got to here, those of you who've sort of followed this, there was a consultation back in March of 2025. You were all asked, or all residents of Stratford District and Warwick District were asked their opinions about where development should be. And at that point, Bidford was not identified as a place for significant development. At that point, and the plan to run to 2015 talked about, in that period of 25 years, about 500 homes. So relatively low numbers over that period of time. In the summer of 2025, officers confirmed to an advisory group of members, and I was on that group at that time. Again, Bidford was not a place that we wanted to build big numbers of housing. It was already recognised that Bidford had had housing growth and that infrastructure had not caught up with it. So it was off the table. At December, it was still off the table. And then surprisingly, in April, members were called to a briefing for a revised plan. And that's where, as some of you might have seen Bill and I's videos when we started to flag this, where the notion of 3,120 homes came into view. At that point, they were saying no affordable housing could be provided in Bidford. It was just not possible for developers to build affordable housing. I once threw a large housing developer out of a meeting and told him that if he couldn't build houses and make money around here, he was in the wrong job. And I still stick with that. And that was it. No discussion, no consultation. Then they found out a few weeks later they hadn't allowed for creating enough homes for their housing land supply. So we have another 550 tacked onto that. And then Warwick District also wanted to take 2,000 homes. So this thing has moved up and down like the proverbial fiddler's elbow. And later on, actually, the numbers have moved again, and we're going to share that with you. But I think that I'm just going to hand back to Bill just to talk to you about when we got to this bit about 3,100 homes and what was actually missing from that.
Right. This is where I got sort of, not exactly sort of told off, but people thought I was trying to be smart. When we went to these meetings, the first thing on the top of every page was infrastructure. Well, when they came to me and we talked about it, I said, listen, Bidford's got 2 pubs, a chip shop, a Turkish barbers and 4 nail bars. Hardly infrastructure for 3,000 houses. So it did actually make a point, which wasn't such a bad thing. But the whole point about all of this is that there are other settlements, I'm going to use the word settlements, in this district that have got things like 3 high schools and, some have train stations, some have other things. And yet Bidford was the biggest single development. I mean, we were going to be the biggest building site in Warwickshire for months and months and, in fact, years. So going ahead with this infrastructure, to be serious about it, though, we're oversubscribed at schools, at doctors. We've got water supply problems. We've got sewage problems and traffic issues. This list just goes on and on and on. And it doesn't matter which service you actually pick for Bidford, there is a problem with it. And so from that perspective, this is where we are. So this is where we are today now. So if you crack to the next slide. Yeah. Right, you go with this one.
So I think we're trying to give you a picture, and I said that the numbers had changed over a number of weeks, and I describe the planners being and the administration being all over the place, because now the evidence that we're supposed to use, we have an evidence base to decide as a council where we're going to decide to put houses, where we're going to put employment, where we're going to put schools, where we're going to put GP surgeries. We employ lots of consultants at eye-watering sums of money to provide us with technical evidence. None of that evidence has changed in the last couple of months. Yet, remarkably, in the last 4 or 5 days, we're now told that it's okay, chaps, that the housing numbers are 2,275. So we've gone 500, 3.2, 3.5, and back down. It's all over the place. This is not a plan. This is just trying to make things fit. But there are some other wrinkles in it. So 2,275 homes, on the face of it, sounds great. It's a minimum, okay? That's the important number. It's a minimum. We can get 30% affordable housing, maybe, but not all of that will be for rent. Some of it will be for what's called shared ownership. And we already know that we can't get shared ownership taken up. It doesn't work around here. We're now going to get land for a secondary school. They were talking about promising us a secondary school. I might observe that the chances of the leader of the council, who has Ulster Academy in her ward, agreeing to lift and shift the academy to Grafton Lane or anywhere in Bidford, I wouldn't be putting an awful lot of money on that happening. But now we're down to land for a high school. Now we're down to land for a primary school. Now we're down to land for an early years facility. That means nothing. It just means they don't build houses on that land. There's no money to build those schools or the early years facilities. There's talk of a new village centre. Now, that seems to be a convenience store and a row of shops. So what does that mean if, this is not a place that's big enough to have 2 centres. So we have a high street, which is quite limited still, but you just kill that completely for a third, no disrespect to Co-op or Budgeons, but a third store of that type. Nobody's talking about an Aldi or a Lidl or a Tesco. You're talking about a convenience store, a Tesco Express type thing. Employment. So we're talking about bringing another 2,200 odd houses. Let's just say it's 2 people. That's 4,500 people. They're going to work somewhere, and they're going to bring extra employment into the village. But what they've decided to do is they only want to build start-up business units. Well, we do need start-up business units across this district, but they don't all need to be in Bidford. If you go to Ulster, and Bidford will end up bigger than Ulster by this plan, it has an industrial estate where you've got employers employing 100, 150, 200 people. Yet the employment they want to suggest is appropriate for the expansion of business are the kind of units that employ 10, 12, 15 people maybe. It's a lot more like the Waterloo Road industrial estate, most of those types of units. It's not big employers, so everybody has to get out of their car. We lose loads of grade 2 agricultural land, and we do have to feed ourselves as well as house ourselves. But the kicker is suddenly a bridge is hoved into view. Those of you who, I don't want to be flippant about this, but I couldn't actually give a serious answer. I was interviewed by the Herald earlier this week. And for those of you who read that August journal, you will already have seen that my response to whether a second bridge can be delivered is about as likely as delivering a dinner date for me with Cameron Diaz.
She hasn't rang then, no?
No, she doesn't ring, she doesn't call.
She sent a text saying no.
Yeah, she sent the text to you. She didn't even send the text to me. She told you she wasn't going to go to dinner with me. Joking apart. So look, we're being asked, and the local plan documents say that the road network cannot take any extra development in Bidford without a bridge. So let's just hold on to this for a second. Just up the road, they're proposing to build a relief road for Stratford. The route is proposed to pretty much kick off the Camden Road at the Stratford Garden Centre, cross the river at Luddington, come out at Dodwell, then go across to the A46 up near the Bannatyne Island where they're building the new industrial estate. That's about 150 million quid project, that is. And that is a huge ask. There is no guarantee the government's going to stump up the cash or help us give in the borrowing facility to make that happen. And yet we're now being asked to believe that a couple of miles up the road, we're going to build another river crossing. They want to make the Bidford Bridge one way, so only going out to Honeybourne. And it's not clear whether the second bridge will be one way back over or two ways. If it's one way, the bridge itself is something like 8 to 10 million quid, plus 2 kilometres of road because they want to connect the Stratford Road, go across the river and come out on the Honeybourne Road on a floodplain, which means they've got to build arches over it. If it's a two-way bridge, it's something somewhere between 15 and 20 million. So you could easily be into a project of somewhere between 15 and 30 million pound on a good day. There is no chance whatsoever. There is nothing in any of the plan. There's nothing that says there's any route to getting the finance to build that. It is pie in the sky. So what we're talking to you about tonight is saying this plan is just, it's an illusion. It's like Narnia. And I've come to the conclusion that this plan should be allowed to fail and we start again, because there are better solutions out there. There are new settlements, opportunities to be built along the railway line between Stratford and Birmingham. There are other new settlement places, and you can create good settlements. You can create good developments in places like Bidford that are infrastructure-led without turning Bidford into the second largest settlement behind Stratford-upon-Avon in this district. You know, it will be larger than the two new settlements they're proposing to build. So that's not really where we want to be. And we want to bring this to your attention. We want to get you engaged with this to say this ain't the right thing. And we'll come a bit later on to tell you how we think you can respond. But that's where we are. I'm going to hand back to Bill because there are some other things we want to share with you. We're not looking to be overtly political about this. We are trying to play a straight bat. But there are some interesting pieces of data around this new plan. And I'll hand back over to Bill.
Yeah, another snidey comment that I made, and I'm not known for snidey comments. I said the bloke that actually drew this, his carer should lock his cranes away and not let him have them back. Right. Locations due to have large numbers at the last public consultation were suddenly omitted or vastly reduced. Long Marston, that was going to have 10,000. Now it's down to 4. They'll never get the relief road with that number. Beeley Wilmcote, 6,000, dropped completely because it would urbanise Stratford. Wellesbourne reduced from 4,000 to 1,500. Ulster, 400 maximum to protect their green belt. Studley, 450, same as Ulster. Now, consider this. Every settlement with reduced housing numbers has a common denominator. Can anybody guess what it is? Well, strange you should actually say that out loud.
Can I just say it before we go any further? Just for anybody who's going to be watching this as it gets replayed back. You haven't paid for them to say that. That's we are identifying a correlation. We are not saying there is causation. Just because Bill and I don't want to get on the wrong side of a code of conduct complaint, we are merely highlighting a correlation between numbers and certain wards. We are saying no more than that.
Yeah. Liberal Democrat councillors who are seeking re-election for the new Unitary Council in 2028. So you've got George Coucher at the top of that list, Wellesbourne, planning portfolio holder, deputy leader at SDC and WCC, and also the portfolio holder that put this plan together with officers. You've got Susan Junid in Ulster with their 500 houses, Stratford District Council leader. Stuart Keithley from Long Marston, SDC Chair of Planning. Neil Eden in Studley, SDC Vice Chair of Planning. Cliff Brown at Welford, Vice Chair of Stratford District Council. Peter Henry-Seraphin, who's a Studley District Councillor. So all of these things, does anybody actually see the pattern in what's on this list? Like Darren says, we're not pointing political fingers, but all of my political fingers are pointing, but there you go. So anyway, I'll pass this back to Darren to talk about the old.
So again, we've sort of suggested that this plan's all over the place. This is the map that we had probably about a month ago now. And you can see that there was a really interesting location for a potential high school on George's Elm Lane. That sounded like the best place to put anything. We were talking about a new village centre just behind that. We were talking about two primary schools on different sides of the village. And you'll notice there's no bridge. But lo and behold, now, suddenly we found a way to have a bridge. And the school's been moved to somewhere marginally more sensible if we ever do get a secondary school. But you can see the whole scale of this thing. You've up to George's Elm Lane at the top.
Sorry.
With more people, the first plan, we didn't need a bridge.
Yeah.
But with less people, we do.
Yeah. I mean,
that's how ridiculous the whole thing is.
Yeah. For those of you just didn't hear that, yeah, the first plan, 3,000 odd houses, doesn't need a bridge. 2,200 houses does. You just can't make this stuff up. I might suggest that that's exactly what's happening. So you can see if we take this, this road that's going to pick up from the B439 Snakehall its way all the way through, crossing the bridge and then coming out on the Honeybourne Road. You really just can't make this stuff up. And it's this kind of thing, actually, that's going to help us, because if they were able to demonstrate they've got a huge evidence base and it tells you this is what we should do, ladies and gentlemen in Bidford, you might not like it, but actually the evidence says this is what you should do. The fact that they've moved this thing all over the place in a sort of 6 to 8 week period makes a mockery of the whole plan process. And it's that kind of thing where it's going to enable, through your parish council, through Bill and I as your district councillors, and through the force of hopefully lots of you getting out to tell your friends about what we can do to try and resist this, we can actually stop this version of the plan and get a better version of the plan. You will be told that if there's no plan, it's terrible because the developers will have the whip hand. Well, one of the reasons developers have the whip hand is when councils don't have what's called a 5-year land supply. I'm not going to bore you with all the details because it's a technical kind of thing, but we don't have one of those. We don't have a 5-year land supply. So do you know what? The developers have already got the whip hand. And our view is we solve the 5-year land supply issue, which has less impact on Bidford and other places for that matter. And we use the time to rethink this plan. So I think we're now getting to the point where we're getting to the end of what we've got to say, because we're going to talk about what you can do. So, Bill.
Right, so we're pretty much at crunch time, really, as to what we would like to happen. So the question is, what can you do? If you want to live in an 8,000 plus homes town, ignore the consultation. But if you don't, when the sound, not sound consultation is published on the 21st of July, your only option is to reply not sound, because there is absolutely no way that this plan helps Bidford in any way, shape or form. I mean, Darren has just described, no plan is, a bad plan's better than no plan. No, it isn't. We really must make this sound not sound. I hope you agree with this, because we really need to get the numbers up with the replies to this consultation. They are not budgeting for the kind of response that Bidford sends in. Going back 15 years or so, when they wanted to shut the fire station, there was a consultation then, and we had to write in or contact them or whatever. And out of the whole of South Warwickshire, 40% of the responses came from Bidford. We need that to happen again. So when the opportunity comes, make sure, please make sure that you reply that this, for the community of Bidford, this plan is unsound.
And just to make a comment on that, I mean, a lot of people feel that consultations are not listened to. Okay, as your district councillor, I hear that a lot. Oh well, why should we respond? But there are some interesting things around this. The district council are under a hard stop of the 31st of December. If they don't get this plan submitted to the planning inspector by that date, to enable it to go forward for an examination next year, then this plan falls and they have to start again. And that's what we want them to do. At the last consultation, which was called Regulation 18, there were 22,000 responses, okay, to the extent that they had to, as well as have officers, they used an AI tool to help manage the responses. Generally speaking, when it gets to this stage, what's called the Regulation 19, you usually expect to get about 10 to 15% of the level of the Reg 18 consultations. So they're expecting circa 2,500 responses. If across the district, because it's not just Bidford, because as I say, Clifford Chambers, Kyneton, Henley, Long Marston have all got their own concerns. So there are other people who are going to be absolutely piling in on this. But if we can get to a position whereby 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people have responded, it gives them a problem, because they've already told us when the consultation ends on the 1st of September, they need about 10 weeks to review the consultations and to prepare a report for the council to meet in December to give the go, no-go to send the plan to the inspector. Now, that's based on trying to deal with about 2,500 responses. If we thought 3-4 times that, we could force them into a position where they run out of runway and can't actually consider the responses and come back to the members before December. So it's about trying to find ways to make this thing fail. So this is one of those unusual things where weight of numbers doesn't always make a difference, but this one will. So the more responses that go in, the more they've got to review, and the longer it takes. And if they run out of road, well, do you know what? That's so unfortunate.
It's a pity the whole village isn't there.
Well, one of the reasons we're filming this stuff, one of the reasons we want is to be able to get this stuff out. We're going to put some other stuff out. And Jill at the back through the Bragg group, she's been trying to get names and addresses for people to be foot soldiers, to be getting out, to getting the word round, because there's a whole population who aren't here. And there are people who not unreasonably live their ordinary lives, and suddenly when they find, where did that come from? So one of the asks from all of you is to talk to your neighbours, talk to your friends, get people to know about this and to respond. For you to be the foot soldiers, alongside Jill's group to get the word out there. So there's no such thing as a free lunch, or indeed a free hot meeting in Bidford. So back to Bill.
What you have to do is to make sure that your views are known. It's too late to object about sites. We can't sort of send back and say, we don't want stuff in Grafton Lane, we don't want stuff on the other side of the B439 or whatever. That is now too late. The strategy is to object to soundness and deliverability of the whole plan. This does include the deliverability of Bidford. Can they deliver this? Without this bridge in this new thing, why do they need the bridge and they didn't need it a month or so ago? The key messages for responses. We are going to help you with that. We're working on these reasons at the moment so that but what we actually don't want is everybody to say the same thing. What we'll possibly do is give you a dozen reasons, and each one of you can pick 4 or 5 of them out and send them in. Because if we used AI to do this, and we gave everybody a copy tonight and you post it in, they'll look at it and they'll start just flying them out. So the whole point about it is, if each response is slightly different, they have to take notice of what you say. So we need to wait and see what's voted on the 15th. We'll be there. We will speak. We will talk about how it affects, each ward member will talk about how it affects their wards. And then at the end of that meeting, there will be a vote. We can ask for a recorded vote. It'll be on video, so anybody that can't sleep in the afternoons, wants to watch it, they can do that. So this is sort of where we're at with it, really. We need you. We need the old First World War thing where we're all pointing at you. We need you to do this.
Your village needs you.
Absolutely.
So, sort of what's next? And Rob, chair of your parish council, wants to come in and say a few things, particularly about what your parish council are going to be doing around all of this. So, but just some things about the process. On the report, the weighty tome that Bill showed you at the beginning is going to be considered by both Warwick and Stratford district councils at their scrutiny committee meeting on Monday. That's a rubber stamp. There is then what's called a joint committee meeting on Tuesday evening of Warwick and Stratford district councils. That committee comprises the leader and deputy leader of both authorities and one other member from each authority. Now, there are some reasons for hope. Warwick district councillors have big concerns about this plan for reasons particularly around the net zero agenda and climate change. And there is a group of Warwick district councillors who don't believe this plan goes far enough in either of those areas and would prefer to see the plan fail than to compromise on their principles about that. I would suggest there's probably about a 25% chance that Warwick District Council, either at the joint committee meeting or the following day, when both full councils at Stratford and Warwick have to meet and to say yes for this to go out to consultation, I'd say there's about a 25% chance that Warwick might just, a group in Warwick, there might be enough numbers for them to kill it here and now. I'm not really concerned how this thing fails now. And that's a terrible thing for me to say, because I started this off, I thought we should have a good plan, I thought we should look long term, we should build good settlements, great places for people to live and work. And now I feel like my teenage children have got on with a bad lot and they've gone off the rails. So I find myself a bit conflicted about it, but this is the wrong plan at the wrong time. So there is a possibility this thing doesn't even get past Wednesday. Probably it will. But there are so many things changing that we've decided not to do a crib sheet yet. We want to wait till the final decisions have been made, and then we can produce a crib sheet for you whereby you'll have a list of reasons. What we'll probably do is put them into 3 boxes, and we'll probably say pick 2 or 3 out of each box and mix it up, because Bill's absolutely right. If every response is absolutely saying exactly the same thing, they can use AI and they can short-circuit it. So this is where we're going to want you to be involved. So district council members are going to be voting against the plan, Bill and I, and we're going to continue in the lobbying. Jill, this is in the corner, Jill Machado over there, Bidford Residents Action Group. She's been getting your names and addresses. She wants to be able to help get the messages out there. And what we want from you, we want you to respond. We want your neighbours to respond, your friends to respond. But you want to know what your parish council are going to do. So I'm going to hand over to the chair of your parish council just to talk about what they've been doing, the discussions they've been having with other groups. So, Rob.
Thank you very much, Darren. Good evening, everybody. Start off, I want a quick straw poll, please, because we are looking with other councils of spending a chunk of cash to get a barrister to review this whole thing, a specialist land property barrister. But we're looking potentially at around 50,000 quid. Now, that's a huge chunk of cash, so we don't want to just dip into our pocket and say, well, there you go. So can I have a quick straw poll? Who would be happy for us to spend that sort of money to defend this? Excellent.
I'd say that's the majority.
Yeah, I would guess that was going to what the answer would be, but I thought I'd check. So,
Tick. Tick.
Tick. Yeah, that's a tick. So, what we've done, where we are now, or where we have been, we're engaging with other councils. As Darren mentioned, there's several councils that this is affected by, and we are talking with them to sort of basically harmonise our output so that we say the same thing at the same time to have a groundswell of opinion. And for that, we need the war chest that we've just talked about. We're engaging with CPRE because they're very much concerned about green belt and loss of land, especially farmland, because it's great having 3,000 houses, but if you can't feed yourselves, there won't be houses for very long. We're working with our district councillors because they are wonderful people. They are wonderful people.
Checks in the post.
And they're all on our side, so obviously why wouldn't we? We've completed or asked for a preliminary forensic examination of the bid 1. And the proposal is from that, or the suggestion is to hold Warwick and Stratford councils to the burden of proof that bid 1 is justified and effective. And the summary that we have at the moment, bearing in mind this is a working document, it's a very first draft ready for discussion, but the evidence against bid 1 is strong that the SDC and WDC has not yet demonstrated that the plan is deliverable through funded, sequenced and general infrastructure over the period of the time. So they're saying that they're going to build all these things, but we've got land for a school, we haven't got a school. We've got land for primary schools, but we haven't got a school. Land for a early years facility, but we haven't got the early years facility. We want a bridge, but we haven't got a bridge. As Bill said, we're not going to get a bridge. There's absolutely no way that they will ever build a bridge, but it's there. It's in the plan. So if it's in the plan and they can't deliver it, the plan fails. So this is where we are. This is why we want to get a junior barrister, a land and property one, to actually say, yeah, you can't do it. All the things you've put in, you're not going to do. If you're not going to do them, the plan fails. And that's what we're trying before September. Darren mentioned the joint council meeting in Leamington, and I'm going to that. I'm going to speak at that one. And the next day, we have the full council, and Ellie, the parish clerk, is going to speak on that one. So we are there, we are visible, we are putting out points of view forward. Going forward, we're going to liaise more with other councils, local councils, to actually sort out, with the aid of our district councillors, I don't know how many other district councillors will actually be involved, but actually put a plan together going forward of what we can legally do. As mentioned, Jill is going to get the foot soldiers, going to get the letters written, but what we can do legally with a few more pounds than our parishioners have individually. So that's where we're at the moment.
Do you want to say anything about the NDP?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the NDP document is a legal document which basically we get to choose the infrastructure and the type of houses and the way it's going to be built in Bidford. But we need to closely be aligned with the South Warwickshire local plan. So we did have a committee, well, we have a working group set up. We've got 16 people, 6 councillors and 10 members of the public. And we will do a parish survey asking people what they would like in the village and what kind of, I don't know how you say it.
Split of housing.
Yeah, a split of housing. And basically, we will put a survey out to you all. And we'd really appreciate you've come down here today to on a Friday in this heat, and hopefully to respond to our South Warwickshire local plan and object, hopefully. And so I'd appreciate you all to tell all your friends to, when the survey comes out, to actually respond to that, tell us what you want, and we can then action that and put it into a legal document. Even if the South Warwickshire plan fails, we still need to update this document because it does then stop developers coming in and just doing what they want without any sort of pretense of what we want in the village. So,
So if people are a little bit unsure as to what they can ask for, if you go on the parish council website, you'll see the previous NDP, and that tells you everything. So it was walkways, green spaces, the environment, where you want to work, how you want to work, what you want transport to look like, whether you want more footpaths. Everything is in there, but that now needs updating. So if you need a template, or if you would like a template to see what's gone before, look at that and then think, oh, that was a great idea, but actually I want more now. So in the previous one, it was 3-bedroomed houses, I believe. Now they're looking more at 2- and 1-bedroomed houses. People are saying that they need. So it's
engagement we need.
Yeah, engagement.
Yeah.
So thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks. And it is, yeah, it is true. We do need a new neighbourhood development plan, regardless of what happens with this, with the South Warwickshire local plan. So before we get into a sort of public question and answer, there's a QR code here. I encourage all of you to click on that, because it's a link to the parish council's website, where you'll be able to register your email address, so that when we've got the crib sheet ready, we can put it into an email distribution and you've got it. For those of you who can't access through email, we'll have other ways of you being able to make things known. We're going to leave that up all for the rest of the evening, and there are some copies of the QR code on the walls around tonight. It's also on the website.
Also, this will only be used for distribution for.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah, it's also on the website. So just a couple of things to say. It's on the parish council website, so it's not Bill and I as district councillors. It's not political in that sense. And just to be clear, that your data around your email address is being collected solely for the purpose of being able to communicate with you on issues around the South Warwickshire local plan. Once that's done, that data gets deleted. So I know that we're all very careful these days about how we pass our data across, but that's why we're routing it through the parish council so that it's absolutely clear, and so the parish council can be front and centre on the information that goes out to residents. So what we're going to do now, if I can find Scott to be our glamorous assistant with the roving mic, to take questions from members of the public. We've got about 40 minutes for questions. If we only got 5 minutes worth of questions and you want to get out of here because it's so hot, that's fine. But we will have a sort of full stop at 8:30. So.
2 minutes to get this thing down on that. Literally just done it. It takes seconds.
Yeah, Paula was just saying it just takes seconds to get the link in and then put your info in. So I'm going to hand the mic across to Scott. Again, if anybody wants to ask a question but they don't want to be on the video, just wait till afterwards and ask your question and then tell us at the end that you don't want to be on camera. Scott.
Hello, can I get a quick hands in the air to who wants to ask a question? How many people do we have in total? Not 2 minutes, fine. I'm going to start with Roger, that's okay. Roger?
Could I just get something clear in my mind? There's a joint council, Stratford District Council and Warwickshire County Council.
District Council.
District Council, sorry.
Yep.
And they together will decide whether this goes through or not.
Okay, they are a precursor. They will make a recommendation to the full councils at Stratford and Warwick, who will meet the following day. So on Tuesday, it's a go no go on whether this should go out. The final no go will, for all members, is on Wednesday. Stratford District Council meet Wednesday afternoon. Warwick District Council meet Wednesday evening.
But if they turn it down, both of those turn it down, this won't happen.
If it doesn't get recommended by the joint committee on the Tuesday, it's dead in the water. If either authority on Wednesday choose not to push it to go out to Regulation 19 consultation, it's dead in the water.
Thank you.
Oh, good evening. 50 years ago, I sat in a similar meeting to this, whereby a developer wanted to build 600 houses on Greenbelt. We fought 3 public inquiries and won the lot. The message I want to get over is people think at this time it's all a waste of time. It's not. You could be more professional than they are. In planning terms, there's loads of things you can challenge this on. And in actual, as I understand it from Bill, that there was a plan approved which people were fairly happy about, and it all got dumped. So I think a lot of questions to be asked there.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely 100% right there. Bidford has fought off the closure of the fire station. We fought off the digging up half the village as a quarry. So I think as long as we all pull together in the same way, we're going to beat this as well. So get the QR code done, link up with Jill, and I don't think anybody can stop this village.
There's enough people here now.
Enough people here?
Yeah.
Hi guys, just want to confirm that obviously we're talking about this particular proposal, but I think we're all aware that there are also other proposals and ideas about building houses in Bidford. Where do they sit with this, and do they impact the numbers, hence why you've got 2,100 to 3,200?
Okay. While the plan's being developed, you're absolutely right, developers still bring forward parcels of land. I said earlier that we have we have a challenge as a council because we can't demonstrate what's called a 5-year housing land supply. And in those circumstances, the balance in any planning application tilts in favour of the developer. So if you want your politicians to be absolutely honest with you, Bill and I, we're going to be absolutely honest with you. There are some developments that are on the stocks already where the most likely outcome is that because we don't have a 5-year land supply at the moment, and we need to get one, and that's another question, that they will be approved. They would be in addition to what's proposed as far as the local plan is concerned, but they in the overall numbers they get taken into account. But I go back to it's 2,200 is a minimum. So whilst you can count them, actually the reality would be those, and you're talking I think something like 300 or so at the moment. In terms of planning applications that have currently been made, it's about 300. You can basically add those to the 2.2 if the local plan goes ahead. If the local plan fails, it doesn't completely get us out of the woods. But we're not out of the woods anyway, even with this. Even if this local plan goes to the inspector, you've still got developers can bring sites forward because of the land supply issue, because we've still got to tackle that. And that is a piece of work that is being done. So, yeah, you end up with those plus. So we need to try and control.
But isn't the message still, though, that wherever they build them, proposed in Bidford or on the outskirts of Salford or the outskirts of Broome, the infrastructure and all the arguments that you clearly put forward still exist?
They do. I mean, we still need infrastructure. Yeah, we still need infrastructure. Sorry.
Look, that comes down to the planning applications they put in, and whether we accept them or we don't, and say there's enough infrastructure for those houses. So that's a planning issue down to the
and that's where our NDP comes in. That is our armour, so to speak, because it's you guys tell us what, as a village, we want in terms of planning, what we want the houses to look like, where we want them. The whole kit and caboodle, if you look at the old one, it tells you absolutely everything about the village, as was on the 2017. So now we have to do it again to say what we want to see in 2028, 2029. And so it's everybody to put in and say, this is what we want, infrastructure. Yes, you can build 100 houses here, but first you've got to give us a brand new road, you've got to give us uprated sewage works, you've got to give us good water supply, you've got to give us good internet.
Extra classrooms.
There is still the 106 money coming from those developers that we need to allocate for things that we need in the village, which would be part of the NDP.
Can I just say something? Bill. I sit on the planning committee at Stratford every fortnight, and I listen to planning applications come in from all over this sort of district. And they ask two questions. One, local housing needs survey. We're fortunate we did one in 2024. And when they ask the question is, what about your NDP? If any village or town says that their NDP is more than 4 years old, they say 5, but if it's into the 5th year, disregard it. So you have to have an up-to-date. And that's why these guys have really got to need the help to get this thing done. Because in real terms, we need infrastructure for what we've got already. Never mind all the stuff that's coming. There's a lot of things that we need done now. So this NDP is absolutely crucial.
Cool, moving on.
Thank you. I don't normally say thank you to councillors, generally speaking.
Nobody ever does.
But I think it is a very helpful scenario that you've created this evening, because you've actually been, in very simple terms, gone through what is a complicated document, and if you actually go online, it isn't easy to follow.
Nope.
And the recent changes clearly have made an awful lot of difference. The one thing that I think is absolutely critical is, and I understand the idea of a crib sheet and so on, but that's so easily seen through. The one crucial thing that the parish council, and maybe with other parish councils, is instruct professionals to object to this, the proposals that are currently there, for planning and professional and reasons that we as a general group wouldn't fully understand. That has to be done, and then that is created into the planning and representations that we can all put forward to the district council. Now, secondly, I'd say 50k, I don't really care what it costs, to be honest with you. Yeah, we've got a parish precept that we pay each year. The parish council has reserves sufficient to cover whatever this will cost. This is something that ourselves and our children and our children's children will thank us for in objecting to what's going forward. And it's critical that we do it sooner rather than later. It's no point waiting a week, a fortnight. And what I would also say is Regulation 19 is not a consultation process.
Correct, it's not.
It is a representation process. Correct. And the report that's going to your committee on the 14th of July makes that very clear. What's also made very clear is that officers, obviously, and whichever is party in control, doesn't want it to be stopped because of the cost and the time that's been put into it. The cost is one thing, but the work that's been put into it can be used in due course as part of the new process, because whilst you haven't said it, the members of the public won't necessarily be aware that if it doesn't go on the 31st, then yes, it falls. But then there is a new process that requires a local plan to be put together in 30 months rather than 5 or 7 years. And so that's the crucial thing. So I support everything that you're saying, but please do appoint planning consultants immediately, and those locally in Birmingham who have the appropriate expertise. It's okay going to a KC, but a KC needs the support of a planning consultant in order to put forward the appropriate representation.
I'll just reply to that. I'll reply to that. Two things. Yes, we're getting a KC, and yes, we already have one of the largest law firms in the country on our side being engaged by us, hence the 50,000. That is our chip into the pot. That is not the full pot. So that is what we're putting in, and other councils are going to be dipping in as well. And the NDP and the letters that Jill will organise, plus what we're doing, it's not an either or, it's both. So we'll be challenging the basis, and also we'll need you guys to write in. So it is both. It's not just one or the other.
And the crib sheets are to guide people that maybe want to write something in but don't know
the full details.
The full details, and want to, and you can't just object by saying I don't like it.
Yeah.
And I don't like, you've got to come up with some substance. So the crib sheet is only there for people that want to engage a little bit more and put a reasonable response in.
I think it's really important. It's not an either or, and it's part of the strategy. So part of the strategy is about engaging. It's one of the largest law firms on the planet, and getting a KC and getting the legal arguments and getting planning experts. But also the whole point of having a large number of representations that they have to go through that are based on soundness is about trying to see if we can get the thing derailed because they don't have enough time to respond to all the representations to enable them to get over the 31st of December deadline. So it's about having a number of different strategies to get to the answer and the outcome you want to achieve. So absolutely, KC, experts, etc., but don't at all think that you guys don't have a huge role to play, particularly at this point, because it's an opportunity to derail the thing. And the gentleman's absolutely right. Then we have to have a new go at it. But that new go at it, all the evidence we've gathered, we can roll over and we can get better outcomes. We want great places for our kids to live, okay? We want great places for people to work. This isn't that kind of outcome for Bidford, for Hatton, for Henley, for any number of places. And actually, you want your councillors to deliver something that's good, and this ain't it. So you guys play a huge role in that part of the strategy.
The other thing as well is, this is a fast-moving thing. Every time something new comes along, Darren and myself will pick up on it, and we'll either do one of our sort of Tom and Jerry videos, or we'll get that message back out to you so you can find it one way or another.
So this gentleman has got control of the mic, sir.
Yeah, I'll just apologise. It's
Okay. Perhaps you just want to, if the mic's causing you problems, just project.
Well, can you hear me?
Project, dear boy.
I'll use this, don't worry.
I used to do some acting, so he probably often project my voice into you quite clearly. The gentleman that I didn't see him, but he was quite right. He said it is worth fighting.
Yep.
Darren, you probably don't recognise me, but if I said me on Vale Woods,
Yeah,
you
right.
probably would know. And it is worth fighting for. And we really made ourselves a pain in the arse.
And you got a great outcome.
And but anyway, I want to say as well, forgive me, Bidfordians, but I used to work in the development industry. I used to, for the big developers. I'm better now, though. I feel better.
Cured.
Shouldn't be standing near the door to say that.
Everyone needs a second chance.
Yes, but please give me a second chance to work with you guys. And obviously, my wife will tell me if I'm overstretching myself. But I'm semi-retired now. Got a part-time job, but I need something else to just keep.
Well, I think you're not leaving the building till we've got your email address, etc. You know what they say about never volunteer for everything.
Jill, can you just...
So I'm going to walk over to Jill. She's very shy, but I'm going to walk over here. On this table here, we have got the Bidford Residents Action Group. So please cast your eyes over, get to know them. Great people, and you might be one of them too.
Good evening. I'm an interloper, so I'm not from Bidford. I'm actually from Clifford Chambers, so I've got a slightly different perspective. Jill was an interloper at our meeting on Wednesday. We had a completely different experience where we didn't have a parish council that wanted to engage at all. In the Regulation 18 stage, as you know, there was an opportunity for councils and for people to respond. 70 councils responded. One missed that deadline, and that was Clifford Chambers. So if you go, there is actually a shame page that the district council have, which is late responses to Regulation 18, and there's only one parish council there, and unfortunately it's Clifford Chambers. So bad has our council been that on Wednesday, the meeting that Jill came to, we had a vote of no confidence. That is very rare. When you think there's 1,000 or so parish councils that have been operating for hundreds of years, you'd think there would be a lot of case law. There isn't. It is very rare. There were 67 people who supported the motion of no confidence in the parish council. 3 people abstained. Nobody voted against it. Whether they will resign, I don't know. But we've had to set up a residents' association to try and do some of the work. And I want to compliment Darren. I've heard you speak once before at the joint cabinet meeting. And it was very clear to me that the Lib Dems do close ranks. And Stuart Keithley, who is our representative, ward representative, is worse than useless because he actually posts things in favour of detrimental impacts. He is going to be resigning, but unfortunately not soon enough. So I would like to echo the sentiments from the gentleman behind. It definitely is worth objecting. And if you want to see how well objections can work, look at Bearley and Wilmcote. They had a parish council that was fractured because when the first plan came out for 6,700 houses between Wilmcote and Bearley, 2 of the prime beneficiaries were on the parish council. There was a third, but her holding is much smaller. That incensed the people, and the parish chairman, Janine Lee, she then called a parish meeting immediately. You have to give 7 days notice. So I think this came out in January 25, February 25. She was straight on it, and then they launched the most vociferous campaign you can imagine. They raised a lot of money. They put a lot of pressure across politicians, including our MP Manuela. And what do you know? When they published this thing, as we said earlier, their reduction was from 6,700 to 0. And why would you even consider building there? Well, they've got schools. Bearley has got a railway line. Wilmcote has got a railway line. 6,700 would have been ludicrously big, but they went and dropped it completely. They won't acknowledge why that has happened, but you can rest assured they knew there was a big pressure point. Contrast that when I met Manuela to discuss the impact on Clifford Chambers. She said to me, she thought that the people in around Clifford Chambers, Long Marston, weren't against the idea of 10,000 homes being built at Long Marston. And she said the only person she'd had an objection from was someone at Meon Vale. And I said to her, why do you think that's the case? And she said, well, presumably people aren't too worried about it. And I said, no, it's because they didn't know. We've been blindsided. There was a plan a year and a half ago, and these disreputable politicians from the Lib Dems have got together and hatched together a plan that hardly impacts them, but impacts us massively.
I think I'm not going to make an overtly political point other than to say that at about 12:30 last night, Janine Lee was elected as the Conservative District Councillor for the Kinnerton Ward and Bearley and Wilmcote. And she is an effective communicator and campaigner, and she highlighted that Bearley Wilmcote wasn't the right location for development. And development should be in the right place at the right time with the right infrastructure. And Bearley Wilmcote ain't it, and Bidford on Avon ain't it either. I think we've got some other questions. Yes, madam.
Yeah, hi there. I just wanted to say that given today's temperatures as an example, the plans seem to be very unsustainable, not following sustainable development principles.
Correct.
Yeah. And because of things like the reliance on car use and the lack of jobs actually proposed and that already exist within the village, the use of cars will have a greater impact on people's healths. So I think that's something that everyone should consider as well, the impact to not only yourselves but future generations as well.
And that is one of the reasons you can use for being in sound. That is exactly what the kind of things that we need.
Yeah. I think the other thing to say is when I kicked this process off and built, there were two golden threads: infrastructure and addressing climate change. Yeah. Okay, and both of those are being abandoned. And let's just be clear about this: we do need development. We need, people. A lot of us in this room are lucky. We've got our own homes, and life's been okay for us. We've been able to get on the property ladder. We do have to accept that it's really tough for the kids, the youngs out there at the moment about trying to get places. We can't say, no, we're not building anything and disenfranchise them, because that of itself don't create great communities. But it's got to be the right thing in the right place at the right time. And the lady there is absolutely right. If you're dependent on the car all the flipping time, if you've got to go in your car to go to work, to go to school, or to take your kids to school, to do your shopping, to do everything else, that is not sustainable, and that is not something that we can afford. This stuff is happening around us, and building and development is one of the key drivers for how we change this stuff. So you make absolutely great points there.
Hello. I totally understand that we, when we're objecting, have to give good reasons for why we're objecting to it. Do the people that are proposing this plan not have to give reasons why Bidford is a good area for it? Or can they just say, we want it in Bidford?
If they get to the point where they send it out for the Regulation 19 and it gets through that, and if they make their 31st of December deadline to get it to the planning inspector, what will then happen is the planning inspector will take a first look at the plan. And it is not unheard of for planning inspectors to go, no, I'm not even wasting my time with a planning inquiry for that. And they do throw them back. It happens. Certainly 10 or 15% of them just historically just get thrown back.
But they don't have to justify.
No, but what will happen, if they get through all of that, there'll be what's called an examination in public, a public inquiry, probably about this time next year, if they get that far, probably lasts 4 to 6 weeks. And that's the point at which a barrister, potentially instructed by your parish council plus other groups, because there's no point having 6 or 7 barristers for 6 or 7 groups, one barrister make all the points. That's the point at which the officers who are saying that this is a really great plan, that's when they're going to be tested. It is a public inquiry. They will at some point be tested, and a barrister will be making the points that all of you have been making, and the things that your parish council and us have been saying, and other groups around the district have been saying, this plan ain't sound, and they will be challenged. They will have to give their evidence. They'll be questioned. And I can tell you, I've given evidence in the High Court. Being examined by a barrister ain't a fun thing. They will be put to the test, and ultimately, it would then be a planning inspector who decides, are they right or are we right? And I think I back us every time. Scott, have we got some more?
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Couple
Firstly,
more.
thank you all for your time and effort in supporting us and rejecting this plan. I wondered if it was possible to flick back to the map at all.
Yeah, I think we can do that. Bear with me a second. There are 2 versions of the map. So this is the most recent version.
Yeah. I don't know how many of you in the room know Famington Old Farm. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. So there's 6 of us, 6 houses that live on that land currently. And what this map doesn't highlight is that we're in the central of this. Yep.
It's the
Here's our glamorous assistant again.
It's the grey pocket. It's the, no. It's
Up further.
A bit further up, isn't it? Yeah, I think.
It's the grey pocket, just in the middle of the green at the top there. It's the
Yeah.
grey pocket there.
Yep.
So we absolutely support rejecting this plan for the wider Bidford group, but equally we believe that we have a unique challenge that we're in the centre of this along with farmers. And we've learnt this through social media, literally within the last week or 2. I think that Darren and I spoke before and we've presented some questions that we've got that we're going to pick up offline. The thing that you raised tonight, Darren, that I have a question about is you says that it's kind of in or out with regards to the plan. But for us, we do support that, but equally it would make a massive difference if the plan was changed. So why is that totally locked down with regards to not changing the plan at all?
Sorry, I'm not quite sure. Sorry. When you say over there, sorry, where? Oh, there you are. Sorry, when you say totally locked down, sorry.
So with regards to what you've presented tonight,
Yeah.
I've understood from the conversation that we're either rejecting this plan or accepting it.
Yeah.
But for us, we're in a unique situation that we're in the centre of this.
Yeah.
And we support, hopefully, not having this plan completely.
Yeah.
But equally, as a group, we have to consider that a change to this plan would also be beneficial to us.
Yep.
So you said that that's not an option on the cards.
Yeah,
So I just was hoping you could explain that in a bit more detail to us to understand that, please.
Right. Because of where the process has got to. Now, there's been all sorts of changes to the plan in the last few weeks, right, which have been particularly in relation to Bidford. And it's a really interesting thing that you might think that if Bidford's getting a caning, there are other district councillors in Warwick and Stratford thinking, it's not us, we're okay. But across this district and across even Warwick district, people who've got no skin in the Bidford game whatsoever are saying this is nuts, okay? And what's going on at the moment is they're trying to find ways of making this acceptable because they think this is where the real hotspot is. With all due deference to the chat from Clifford Chambers and about Long Marston, because your parish council and your 2 district councillors have kicked up such a fuss about this. They think this is the centre of it. And what they're trying to do is to make this. They haven't even thought about you guys in that sense.
You can imagine
Absolutely.
how that made us feel, along with everybody.
Yeah,
I appreciate
absolutely.
respects everybody.
So it's locked in that. Are they going to drop that half off? In other words, bring you back into open countryside. They'll not make that kind of concession. So from your perspective, my advice, for what it's worth, is that it is better for you that this plan dies, and then we have a more rational plan, which might involve some development in Bedford. And frankly, if there is a secondary school to be had, there might be some price you as a community are prepared to pay for that, but you want to be engaged in that conversation, and you don't want just stuff imposed on you, because it is rational to say, do you know what? If the price of a secondary school is 2,500 houses as a community for a secondary school, you say thanks, but no thanks. That's a legitimate challenge. But for you at Framlington, I think there isn't going to be anything that could make a significant difference to you. I don't think they're going to move from this now. This is their last throw of the dice as far as Bidford is concerned.
That's the hill they're going to die on.
It is the hill they're going to die on. And it's not until you get to an examination next year that you'd be able to say, well, actually, there's lots of reasons why that shouldn't happen in and of itself, as well as the broader Bidford. I hope that makes some sense. But I think you've provided us with this stuff. And I think if we can pick this up offline, we can come and talk to you as a group of 6 people and give more time than we can perhaps give for everybody tonight.
There is a number of things for us that haven't been surveyed correctly, whether that's down to the grade 2 listed buildings. We've got one in Babington, Old Farm, there's one on the farm, to species of bats. She's got a survey and that hasn't been completed. So we've got a whole host of research.
So I think
and that's all documented.
So what we'll do, we'll take this and we'll definitely arrange to come and meet you guys, because you've presented a load of stuff that you haven't seen yet. Well, none of us have seen it yet, but we will pick that up. I think Jill particularly wants to say something at the back and from the.
Sorry, I know you've been just 2 seconds. What it is, Hamilton Farm, okay? Hamilton Farm. You can see, we know where Hamilton Farm is. If you get your OS Ordnance Survey map out and look at the contour lines, they actually can't physically build unless it's terraced houses like it used to be in Salford, the old Salford in the north. You've got to be terraced, because they didn't have any walking boots. They didn't come round and see the terrain. So it's exactly the same as when you go south of the river, down in that south part. They haven't actually had a look that there's hills.
Oh, that's documented in that.
Yeah.
Your opinion on our document. I've got your copy too here, Jill.
Okay, have we got some other questions? I'm just conscious we're starting to run towards
Just
the end.
one question. Hugh Cole, I'm a resident, 11 years of Bidford. I live on the High Street. One question. There's going to be an awful lot of gleaning information. And I noticed that we've got Bragg, District Council, Parish Council, and various other people will be firing in emails independently. Have you got one official or person who's going to be appointed as the project coordinator? Because it's very complex.
Yeah, I think you make a valid point, and I think that's something we've probably got to take away. So we might end up with, there's a dedicated page on the Parish Council website, and the Parish Council, and I know through the Neighbourhood Development Plan Group, there's a planning consultant going to be involved. So I think that's something we can take. Go on, Mark, you want to say something on that?
There was talk about a working group specifically for the South Warwickshire plan, because the NDP group doesn't want to take on this kind of, this beast, because it's more to do with the NDP and the local people. So there was talk about a South Warwickshire local plan. And we might working group and we might put that together. But that's in the
I think you make a valid point, and I think we need to ensure that you've got a parish council, you've got your district councillors, you've got Bragg, that we coordinate between ourselves so that there is a sort of controlling mind, if you will, about how we're going to make sure we get the right strategy, but equally how we're going to get information communicated back out to you. So I think we do need to take that away, and and I'm sure through perhaps the next we'll find a way of getting that messaging back out to people.
But also, if it was a working group, it could also incorporate the Bragg group as well, because residents can actually be part of that. So
where we are at the moment is because, in a way, it's early doors. We wanted the full council, the full parish council involved. So all the 11 good men and true, and women, obviously, were fully aware of where we're at. Whether we then split off into smaller groups is another thing, but we wanted the full concentration of the council, because there's this, but there is also the solar farm that is just up the road in Salford Price, which is another national project. So we wanted all of our people at the first time, and then we will, if a working group works,
If it's feasible.
yeah, if it's feasible and it is beneficial, and we'll move the process forward, we'll go that way.
Okay. I'm just conscious of it's 8:20, and it's also getting. Have we got any more?
Yeah, we have got a few
burning?
more questions. Final hands up, please, for any more questions. I know one more.
Got one last question, have we?
2, 3-ish.
Okay.
I think that's
Okay. Go on then, Scott.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this evening. To concur with the gentleman from Clifford Chambers, I really agree that people really need to get behind this. If we go back to the South Warwickshire local plan from last year, where we all had the opportunity to submit our opinions about supporting or objecting to the strategic growth location of Bidford, there were 150 responses in total. 61 supported the development of Bidford and only 75 objected. So if you look at the objections, there were at least 18 people that objected from another potential growth location in Warwickshire. And they thought they all objected to their own, but they supported it to happen in Bidford. So did AI pick that up when the responses were being evaluated?
It will have picked it up to some degree, but it has that wasn't the determinant that changed things. It was human decision making rather than AI, and I think you're right that certainly as far as the officers were concerned, as I say, right up to the spring, the officers were in the place that said Bidford is not a place for a strategic growth location. There was human intervention after that changed it. I think that, as I say, we're trying to give you information. We're trying to make, we're trying to make this to engage you. This ain't a political broadcast, but we can't blame the machine for this one. We blame the humans, that's probably I'll get myself into trouble if I'm next. Yeah, shut up, Darren.
Yeah, stop that.
Any more questions, ladies and
Got one
gentlemen?
more over there.
One more, and I think we'll probably then call it because we're all starting to melt. I think you all need a huge pat on the back for your stoicism tonight. It's a warm one.
Yeah.
No.
Thank you very much for today. It's been very, very informative. So, yeah, really appreciate how well you've laid this all out. End on a more positive note then, as I'm an optimist. So if we all come together and we're successful and we block this come December this year, what happens next? There's going to be a new plan. There's going to be a shorter timescale, a new framework. How do we actually then go about getting something that's right for the community? Because they're not just going to not do anything further.
Okay, so that will be down to the NDP. So we put that in place and we update it. If we update it now and the South Warwickshire plan changes and we're not in line with it, our NDP falls down. So it's because it needs to align. So the next stage is for us to get our NDP in place, and then whether they have to sort of align with us is a different matter. They probably won't, but at least we've got a new document and a new legal document that can change the shape of Bidford a little bit. And then when that new plan comes out, we'll then deal with that when it comes out.
I think the other thing I would also say is it gives the opportunity. So there are sites that have been discounted, and as a lot of people feel that those sites, bearing in mind we were looking at a 25-year plan, and there was a reason for that, because if you want to build a new settlement and you want to get National Grid to put the electricity in and Centrica to put the gas in, you have to look long term. But there are sites that have some broad support and are sensible that have not been brought into play, that could be brought into play to achieve that vision of good quality settlements where you get the infrastructure and allowing for the existing settlements to grow organically so that they we don't want, for example, Bidford to wither and die. You need an organic level. So it enables you to have that reset. And I'm an optimist. And I think the answer would be your elected representatives and you as residents would get another go around at a consultation, and that would be then the opportunity. And I think, having had their fingers burnt, regardless of whether the administration changes or not, If this thing falls, they won't ignore people again. That's my optimistic slant on it.
The amount of money that's been spent on this. The amount of money that's been spent on this.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
They need to listen to us now.
Yeah.
And that's the call to arms is basically, in my opinion, should be more about what are we going to do next after we solve this.
Yeah,
one.
I think there is a one step at a time. I think this isn't the last time we'll get together to talk about this. This is about a call to arms for stage one. If we then get down to a new plan, it's about call to arms to engage people.
And in between that, we've got this survey for the NDP.
Yeah.
So we'll be engaging the whole time to try and get a plan with everyone here and the whole the village.
So,
any more questions at all?
I would just like to thank these people for doing the amount
there's a lady right at the back.
We've got a cancellation
Okay.
sprint.
All right, well,
on the
look-
way out, we need to say hello to Jill as well to make sure that recorded things on her bit of paper. So note
Yes. Do you want to do that message for Jill?
that. Are we finishing?
Yeah, I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're pretty much done. If you haven't left your details with Jill, leave your details with Jill. If you haven't, let's get the QR code back up. If you haven't taken the opportunity, do the QR code. Thank you very much for your time and patience. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, and I hope England win tomorrow.